Om Namah Shivaya. Good morning, everybody.
Om Namah Shivaya.
Namah
Om
Shivaya.
Namah Shivaya.
Om
Om
Namah
Namah
Shivaya.
Shivaya.
So we'll continue with where we left off. We are now on the 16th chapter, verse number 22. Sri Bhagavan Uvacha
Shri Bhagavan
Bhagavan Vacha
Etair Vimukta Kaunteya
Atharvabhukta
Etairbhukta Kaunteya
Modvaraisthibirnaraha
Tamodvare
Dvareisthibhirnaraha
Acharyatmana Shreyaha
Acharya
Acharya Shreya
Tato Yati Param Gatim.
Yato
Tato Yati Param Gatim.
So I'm getting your and hey Kaunteya, hey Arjuna, etaihi trivihi tamodvaraihi vimuktaha. So hey Kaunteya, vimuktaha, free from etaihi trivihi tamodvaraihi, from these three doorways to Naraka. And what are the three doorways? We saw in the last verse, Kama, Krodha, Tatha, Lobha. So free from these three doorways to Naraka, Naraha, Acharati, Shreyaha, Atmanaha. Naraha, the person, the human being. Shreyaha, Acharati. He pursues his Shreyaha, Atmanaha, for his own good. And doing that, Tataha Yati Paramgatim. And therefore, in that manner, Yati Paramgatim. He attains the supreme goal. So this is a sloka which is Tyaga Stuti, glorification of Tyagaha. So Etaihi Tribihi Tamodvaraihi Vimuktaha, freed from Kama, Krodha and Lobha, which are the three doors to Naraka, the lower lokas. And Shankara clarifies Tamodvaraihi means Tamasaha Narakasyaha, which means that Tama means darkness, and darkness means Naraka, the lower regions. So Tamodvarahi has to be taken as the lower regions, going into the lower regions. And Dukkha Mohatma Kasya. So that's a adjective which Shankara adds. Dukkha Mohatma Kasya. This Naraka is Dukkham Atmakasya. It has the nature of pain, and Moha Atmakasya. It has the nature of delusion also. So we can take it as this descent into Naraka. May I request you all to please close up your, mute yourself. The recording is getting disturbed. Please do not unmute yourself unless the discussion is over. So Dukkha Atmakasya is nature of pain, and Moha Atmakasya is the nature of delusion. And we can take that as physical and mental pain. And these doors are, Shankara adds, Kama Layaha in the form of Kama, Krodha, and Lobha, which we have seen. So it's a very nice definition, that even if you have pain, providing, of course, that you have sufficiently developed a certain amount of tolerance for pain, the idea being presented is what? That you need to work on developing tolerance for physical and mental pain. The entire Yoga Shastram is to ensure that you develop this particular uh, immunity. I won't say immunity, tolerance for both physical pain and mental pain. Not that you will not have the physical and mental pain, but the pain can be there, can be present, and you will still be able to lead a dharmic life. Right? So you have examples in the Mahabharata, in the Ramayana, in the Puranas, all indicating that even if you are in pain, whether it is physical or mental, you should be able to lead the dharmic life. Why is it so important to have the tolerance? Because if you don't have, then you will give up dharma. And the moment you give up dharma, that is naraka. So the person who is aitaihi tribihi vimuktaha, who has renounced all these three and acharati, he is committed to, he is focused on atmanaha shreyaha, whatever is good for himself, as different from atmanaha prayaha, whatever is pleasant for himself. So it is, he chooses the good over the present. He chooses the internal journey over the external journey, internal growth over external growth. And then Shankara adds that whatever obstacles were there for not following the spiritual path, they are no longer present. And what are the obstacles? Aitaihi tribihi, kama, krodha, lobaha. Having done that, tataha yati param gatim. Because of that spiritual practice, tataha means because of that spiritual practice, because of the tolerance for mental and physical pain, yati param gatim. Here he arrives at moksha and he gets moksha. He will get, and you have to understand, he will get the Shuddhi, then he will get Acharya Prapti, then he will get Shravanam, then he will get Mananam, and then he will get Nididhyasanam, and then Moksha Prapti. And when will he get this? In this very life. Right? So don't wait for the next life. Now, Shankara introduces the next verse, the 23rd verse, saying that how do we attain this moksha? He says the teaching of the Shastram alone will enable you to give up Asuri Sampat and embrace Daivi Sampat. We have seen all this in the first few verses of this chapter. And he says that this next verse is pointing out that you may have a lot of Shraddha in the Lord, in Ishvara. But if that Shraddha in Ishvara has to get you moksha, that same Shraddha has to be manifesting as Shraddha in Veda. Unless you have Shraddha in Veda, you are not going to get moksha in this life. And this is therefore, the 16th and 17th chapter, the next chapter also, they are presenting the very essentials of Karma Kanda. Of course, we are seeing Karma Kanda also in Taittiriya Upanishad and in Chandogya Upanishad. So it's a very appropriate time for us to be doing these two chapters in Bhagavad Gita also. Okay. Now we look at verse number 23. We will chant. Yashastra vidhim utsrajya
यः
शास्त्रविधिमुत्सृज्य
शास्त्रविधिमुत्सृज्य
वर्तते
वर्तते
कामकारतः
कामकारतः
वर्तते कामकारतः
न स सिद्धिमवाप्नोति
नोति
न सिद्धिमवाप्नोति
न सुखं
न
न
सुखं
परां
न
गतिम्.
परां गतिम्
न सुखं न परां गतिम्.
So I heard somebody say Yah Shastra Vidibhutsajya. So just remember that when you are chanting, what should be done?
Yes,
The Visarga has to merge with the next word. So Yash Shastra Vidibhutsajya. Chanting rules, it doesn't change the meaning in any manner whatsoever. So Yahaha Vartate, he who lives, he who behaves, Kama Karataha, according to the influence of his kamaha, of his desires. What does he do? Utsrajya Shastra Vidhim. He renounces the Shastra Vidhi, the scriptural instructions, Shastra instructions. And what happens to such a person? So there is Yaha in the front, in the first, that has to be connected to Saha. Yaha, Saha. He who, that person. So he who lives according to influence of his desires without following Shastric Vidhi, Saha avapnoti na siddhim na sukham. That person, he doesn't get either success or happiness. Siddhi is success, Sukham is happiness. And not only that, na param gatim, nor does he get moksha. So here Shankara explains each word. Yaha Shastra Vidhim Utsrijya. Yaha, a person who Utsrijya means Tyaktva, ignores or renounces or gives up. Shastram means Vedaha, Shruti. Vidhim means, very nicely explained. Vidhim means Kartavya, Akartavya, Jnana Karanam, Vidhi Pratisheda Akhyam. You can understand? Kartavya, Akartavya, Jnana Karanam, Vidhi Pratisheda Akhyam. This is the definition of Vidhi, which is the source of knowledge. So here he is including Nisheda also. So Vidhi is, he says, Kartavya, Akartavya. That is to be done and not to be done. Jnana Karanam. It is the source of that knowledge of what is to be done and not done. That's why he says Vidhi Pratisheda Akhyam. So Vidhi generally means the instructions of what is to be done. But here in this context, he says it has to be taken as Vidhi and Nishedaha. And this Vidhi and Nishedaha both belong to Veda Purva. And therefore he says that if you do not follow the teachings of the Veda, what will happen? You will follow something else. And what is that? Vartate kamakarataha. He is committed to kamaha. And kamaha here means what? Ragatvesha. And therefore a person who is living by his, under the influence of his desires, he is living under the influence of ragadvesha alone. Therefore Shankara says he is a prakrita purusha, unrefined person. And who is a person who follows the Shastram? Samskrita Purushaha, refined person. And if you don't do that, what happens? Saha avapnoti na siddhim. So, what is siddhim here? Shankara says siddhim means chitta shuddhi. He uses the word purushartha yogyatam. The purushartha, the eligibility to get the purushartha. Purushartha here is what? The final purushartha, which is moksha. So purushartha yogyatam means moksha yogyatam. What is moksha yogyatam? Eligibility for moksha, nothing but chitta shuddhi. So saha apnoti avapnoti na siddhim. He does not get chitta shuddhi, sukham. He will not get sukham also. And Shankara adds one more line. Na api asmin loke sukham. He will not get sukham in this life also, in this loka also. Which means what? Worldly happiness also he will not get. What is the logic? Because a adharmic lifestyle will generate agami papam, right? And agami papam will obstruct what? Prarabdha punyam. See the logic. If you live an adharmic lifestyle, you will be generating agami papam. And in your prarabdha box, you have got both prarabdha punyam and prarabdha papam. But because you are generating more agami papam by following a adharmic lifestyle, that agami papam will prevent the fructification of prarabdha punyam. And therefore, asmin loke sukham nasti. In this world, you will not get any laukika sukham. Any worldly happiness also you will not get. Na api param gatim. You will not get moksha also. You can take it as Swarga also. Okay, so you will not get Swarga in the next life, or will you get moksha in this life? Both things are possible. Then the last verse. Tasmat Shastram Pramanam Te.
Tasmat Shastram
Tasmat
Pramanam Te.
Pramanam Te.
Karya Karya Vyavastitau.
Karya
Karya Vyavastitau.
Jnatva Shastra Vidanoktam.
ज्ञात्वा शास्त्राविधानोक्तम्
कर्म कर्तुम् इहारसि
कर्म कर्तुम्
कर्मकर्तुं
अर्हसि
विहारसि
इति श्रीमद्भगवद्गीतासु उपनिषत्सु
इति श्रीमद्भगवद्गीतासु उपनिषत्सु
ब्रह्मविद्यायां योगशास्त्रे
ब्रह्मविद्यायां
ब्रह्मविद्यायां
योगशास्त्रे
योगशास्त्रे
श्रीकृष्णार्जुनसंवादे
श्रीकृष्णार्जुनसंवादे
कृष्णार्जुनसंवादे
दैवासुरसम्पद्विभागयोगो नाम
दैवासुरसम्पत्तिविभागयोगो नाम
भागयोगो नाम
षोडशोऽध्यायः
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 So, तस्मात् कार्य अकार्य व्यवस्थितौ, right? Avyavasthatau. In the determination of what you should do or not do, karya, akarya, avyavasthatau. In the determination of what is to be done and not done by you, te means you, for you, hey Arjuna, all of you. Shastram pramanam. Shastram is the source of the knowledge. Shastram is the pramanam. And therefore, what should you do? Kyatva shastra vidhi vidhana uktam. Having understood what Shastra has to say, having studied the Shastra from a guru, understood what Shastra has to say, karma kartum iharhasi. Karma kartum iharhasi. You should continue to do your actions in this world. Right? So tasmat. Tasmat means because. Therefore. Wherefore, because of all the ideas which I have given you in this chapter, especially in the previous verse, te, for you, O student, Shastram is Pramana. And Pramana is what? Jnana sadhana, source of the knowledge. And Karya Vastitau, Kartavya, Akartavya, Vyavasthaya. So, with regard to the arrangement of what is to be done. Vyavastha is the arrangement or norm, right? So, Kartavya, Akartavya, Vyavastha. With regard to the arrangement or the structure of what is to be done and what is to be not done, you have to follow the Shastram only. And Shastram here means Dharma Shastram, it means Karma Kanda, it means Veda Purva. Remember that Vedanta, the Jnana Kanda, does not deal with Dharma Adharma. That is the Veda Purva Bhaga will deal with that. And therefore, Gyatva Shastra Vidhanoktam. And Shankara says, when you say Vidhanoktam, you should say Gyatva Shastra Vidhanam Kuryat na Kuryat. The instructions of Shastram on Kuryat, what is to be done, or na Kuryat, what is to be avoided after having understood Karma Kartum Iha Arhasi. You must implement those instructions Iha in this world. So in Karma Kanda, theory is necessary. Right? Jnanam is necessary in Karma Kanda, but Jnanam necessarily has to be followed up by implementation. Right? You understand the logic? In Karma Kanda, Jnanam has to be followed up by implementation to make it useful. Can you give an example?
If I know the recipe of something interesting, until I cook it, I will not be able to eat it.
Correct. So if you know how to make an idli, that is jnana of karma kanda. But if you don't make the idli, it is totally useless. The implementation of the knowledge is useful. Right? So iha has to be taken as manush janma. So I said this word, but Shankara clarifies iha should be karma adhikara bhumi. Very beautiful word. Karma adhikara bhumi. That bhumi, that place in which you have the adhikara to do karma, which is what? Manushya Janma only. Okay. Note that there are some commentators who connect this iha. So what Shankara has said is iha means your Manusha Janma. Therefore, that is a general connection which makes it relevant to all of us. But some commentators who comment specifically on this particular warrior field, that battlefield, they say that Iha has to be connected to Kurukshetre of the first verse of the first chapter. And if you do that, they say, then this whole thing becomes relevant for Arjuna as a warrior. I'm not disputing that. That is also correct. But this Gita is not written only for Arjuna, right? It is meant for all of us. And therefore, Shankara's commentary that it is the Manushya Janma where you have the eligibility to do karma. Karma adhikara bhumi is what Manushya Janma. The birth as a human being. Therefore, it should be taken as that. Then Shankara adds, not just that. He says, Tena Uktam Swakarma. Very important. Tena Uktam Swakarma Yat Yat Kartum. Very, very important idea where he is pointing out that from so many words, but he is defending the Iha as Manushya Janma. So he says these instructions, Tenoktam, these instructions, Swakarma, according to your role in this life, Yat Yat Kartum, should be implemented accordingly. Very, very beautiful line. All the instructions in the Bhagavad Gita, as far as Karma Kanda is concerned, have to be implemented according to your instructions or according to your role in this life, Swakarma, role which you are currently playing. So when Krishna says, Tasmat Yudhyasva Bharata, he is addressing Arjuna in his role as what? As a warrior on that battlefield. Right? And some commentator adds very humorously that he is not being addressed as a grihastha and told to go and fight with his wives. So we should be very, very, very careful in their understanding. So with this, we have completed the 16th chapter. And we have a lot of time as yet. So do you want a quick summary of this 16th chapter?
Yes, Acharya. Yes, please.
Yes,
It's very,
Acharya.
very brief summary because I have not really prepared one. So I'm going to talk off the, what do you call it, top of my head, okay? So we said that 16 and 17 chapters basically are Karma Kanda oriented. They don't deal with Atma Jnana. And so this whole 16th, 17th chapter is based on the premise that Atma Jnanam is useful only to a person who has got Chitta Shuddhi. And to get Chitta Shuddhi, you have to be prepared. Right? You have to have certain qualifications, do some karma. And therefore, all Shastram talks about this particular part of preparing. So even if you look at the Veda as a whole, the Upanishads, the Atma Jnanam portion, is only a small portion of the Veda. The Vedanta is small. The biggest portion of the Veda is Veda Purva, Karma Kanda. Similarly, if you take the four ashramas, so the point being that most of the Veda, that is the Karma Kanda, is dealing with preparation for Jnana, not Atma Jnana. Similarly, if you take the four ashramas, most of the ashramas, three of them, are for preparation for Chittashi, for Jnana, right? So these two chapters, 16 and 17, they are basically for refining the person. And then Krishna talks about practices to be done and practices to be avoided. So he talks about Daivi Sampatti and Asuri Sampatti, right? So the whole thing is presented completely in a unique format over here. So first is that you should refine yourself as an individual human being. You are different from an animal. A human being has free will and choice. So you're a karta. Unlike an animal which has no free will, therefore lives a instinctive life. And therefore you should refine yourself as a karta. Then as a bhokta, you have experiences, right? All sort of good experiences there, bad experiences there. So as a bhokta also, you have to learn to face all the experiences without getting upset unnecessarily with faith in the Lord. So that is improvement as a bhokta. So you can improve yourself as a karta and as a bhokta. And then you can improve yourself as a human being, as a mumukshu also. What type of improvement can I bring about? Right. So refining yourself as a human being is one thing. Refining yourself as a karta is one thing. Refining yourself as a bhokta is one thing. So those three anybody can do. But refining yourself as a mumukshu, that is basically only for a sadhaka. Now let's look at these four areas. Refining yourself as a human being is basically you have to ensure that you are mentally and physically fit, right? So health is a great wealth. And health means physical, emotional, and intellectual. We all know that physical health is very necessary so that you can come to class and sit for 1 hour. Here, of course, you're sitting on the comfort of your own chairs. But if you're in a ashram, you will be sitting cross-legged on the floor. So no back pain, no knee pain should be there. That is the first idea, refining yourself. So physical health is necessary. Emotional health means a calm, peaceful, and poised mind. Because we know, we have seen before, Ashantasya Manobharaha. A restless mind is an obstacle. And over the entire list of Daivi and Sampatti and Asuri Sampatti, which we saw in this chapter, they are all good for your mental health. And intellectual health is there, is an intellect which is capable of learning, of thinking with clarity. And also, after all that, when you're a teacher, of communicating with clarity. That is why Tarka Shastram is there in our scriptures, training the mind to think and communicate. Right? So, like what you can do if you want to develop this is that take any 15 minutes of this class, whatever has been spoken, try to give the essence in not more than 2 sentences. It's like what we used to call in school now, précis writing. Make a précis out of it. Make a summary, small summary. Then you have, you know, the refinement as a karta. So what do you do there? You reduce the number of instinctive actions, impulsive actions, because instinctive and impulsive actions do not have the power of free will behind them. This includes talking also. So never act impulsively. That is one idea which comes from here. And secondly, you should make sure that your actions, remember we're talking about a karta. So not only should you not act impulsively, you should have only, as far as possible, sattvic actions which replace impulsive or unintelligent actions. What is a sattvic action? We'll see later also. But basically, a sattvic action is something which benefits a large number of people. And tamasic action is something which benefits, which harms others. Then there is refinement as a bhokta. So I should be mature enough to know that I will have all sort of experiences, right? As a bhokta, I will go through many experiences over which I have no choice. For example, my body growing old, the back giving trouble in spite of all the exercise I do. The children's behavior as they grow older, these are all choiceless, right? So you have a contribution to make towards your future, but it is important to accept that the control is not there. You can contribute, but there is no control. And therefore, with that wisdom, you should have the strength to accept the choiceless situations. And therefore, what can you do? You can only strengthen yourself, your mind, so that when something negative arrives, especially from your near and dear ones, you are not broken. And for this, devotion helps. The Lord is always with us, even if nobody else is standing by as we grow older. And in this story, the greatest strength is Atmagyan. So, tasmat apariharyarte natvam sochutam aras. For that which cannot be sorted out, do not spend time grieving or resenting it. So, there is wisdom and there is strength. Then you have to be skillful. So, the disturbance of the bhokta, the disturbance of the mind as a bhokta, disturbance will be there, but it should not get carried over into your life as a karma. Right? As a child, when before you go for exam, your parents tell you, don't get upset, keep your mind calm. Why? Because any disturbance in the mind translates into a problem for a karta. So any bhokta disturbance always gets translated into a problem for karta. Therefore, you have to be skillful in ensuring that the bhokta experience or disturbances don't affect you as a karta. And then you have to learn from every experience, right? For you, because you cannot stop experiencing good and bad, you have to be able to learn. See, any experience from which you learn is never a loss. Even if there is a pain in experience, it's not a loss. But an experience which is painful and has not taught you anything, that is a complete loss. So from every experience, painful or pleasurable, learn something, because sadhana chatushta sampatti is achieved also through attitude towards life's experiences. A skillful bhokta converts all the painful experiences, especially, into learning also. And lastly, you must have faith. From the mumukshu's point of view, you have to associate with the Lord, faith in the Lord, faith in the Guru, faith in the Shastra. Without faith in Ishvara, remember, there is no spiritual journey at all. And when I say associate with Ishvara, it means spend time for prayer, spend exclusive time for prayer, for worship, all these things. When you say faith in teacher or guru, it means spend exclusive time in Shravana. Learn from the teacher. And when I say faith in Shastra, it means do regular Swadhyaya. You can actually be listening to the lectures, you can be chanting also. So without these three things, you will not get anywhere. And if you look at what we have studied over the chapters, in the first three verses, Krishna talks about Daivi Sampatti. So Daivi Sampatti contributes towards your refinement. Then the next 18 verses or so, verse number 4 to verse number 21, they talk about those activities which will adversely affect you as a human being. Broadly speaking, you can say Asuri Sampatti. And the last two verses, Krishna talks about the importance of Shastra. Right? So that's the most important part of this particular chapter, that you have to learn to refine yourself, become strong, and also have faith in Shastram and Ishvara. So with this, we will close for the day. Any questions? You're welcome.
Oh, Acharya, like
Yeah.
you had earlier said, that we wish this chapter had come a little earlier to refine our minds and our thinking. But
It
it
is
is
never
a
very
beautiful
late
chapter.
to
Yeah,
anything.
yeah, it's a very beautiful chapter. Yeah.
Ideally, actually, I have seen teachers who present 16th chapter first, and then we didn't do that because that's not the way SPG teaches.
Right. Absolutely.
So with this, thank you for your patience. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamada Purnam Eva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Tat Sat. Om Namah Shivaya. Thank you for your patience.
Namah Shivaya.